Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Fear is the antithesis of love, and love, therefore, is the antidote to fear. To understand how this can be, it's only necessary to see that you cannot love something you fear, and you do not fear something you love. Since love is love of life, and fear is fear of life, fear is therefore anti-life, not only anti-love. Fear keeps you from love, and it also doesn't serve life. To love something or someone, you must trust it. What is trust? That, like love, is another great mystery, and yet you all know what trust is. We can only describe trust by its results. When you trust, you relax, you feel at ease, you're open. Isn't this also how you feel when you love, and how you don't feel when you fear? Thus, trust is the natural outcome of love, and love is the natural outcome of trust. These belong to the same experience of ease, peace, relaxation, and the gentleness that follows from that. Fear, on the other hand, is an absence of trust, and therefore an absence of love, relaxation, and peace. Fear and love are two very different states of consciousness, two mutually exclusive experiences. The search for happiness is largely an attempt to find a way to move from one state, the state of fear, to the other, love, and to stay there. When we define happiness as a state of consciousness, it becomes apparent why things and experiences can make you happy only temporarily, and why they can't lead to a more permanent experience of happiness. Anything that can cause you to shift back into a state of consciousness of fear will take away your happiness, although only temporarily. States of consciousness can change. Many things can change one's state. The trick is learning to take control of one's state enough that things and experiences lose their ability to shift your consciousness. Learning to control your consciousness in this way gives you the power to be happy. You become a master of your own happiness, rather than being tossed to and fro by things that can shift your consciousness one way or another. You are no longer dependent on certain things or experiences to make you happy, nor do you have to avoid other things or experiences that might make you unhappy. You can just let life come and go, as it will and as it does. You don't need to try to maintain control of what life brings you or what life takes away, because you no longer need things to make you happy, and things can no longer make you unhappy. This is spiritual mastery. How do you get there? Such mastery comes through mastering fear, that little emotion that everyone has and everyone believes serves a purpose in their life. Therein lies the rub. Does fear actually serve a purpose? Have you ever asked yourself this question? Have you ever questioned your fears? Don't you usually think they have something important to tell you? Don't they give you important, useful information? That is the supposition, but it's a lie. And it's the lie that holds the illusion with a capital I, as mystics call it, in place. Fear is the greatest illusion, because without it there would be no grand illusion, no misunderstanding of reality. Fear creates a lens through which you view your reality. It is a dark lens, a dirty lens, an unhappy and unpleasant lens. It makes life seem unpleasant when it's not. What a magic trick that is! fear changes how you see life, and therefore changes your state of consciousness. It keeps you entrapped in a lower state of consciousness, one most people live in, the egoic state of consciousness. We call it that because it's dominated by the ego's perceptions. The ego is a primitive encoding or imprinting, which was designed to promote survival, but which is doing more harm than good at this point in human evolution. The ego is a dysfunctional and antiquated programming that is wreaking havoc in your world. Instead of assisting humanity's survival, it's leading humanity to its own destruction. You now have the means to destroy each other on a large scale. The ego, although potentially helpful long ago in hunting game and protecting one's resources from prey, has the means now to hunt and kill on a larger scale than ever intended. Plus, the ego has access to an intellect that can rationalize reasons to do terrible things. Primitive humankind didn't have such developed reasoning capabilities. Human beings were simpler, more like animals. They killed when they needed to eat or to protect themselves, not because their beliefs differed from someone else's. Life has gotten complicated by an intellect that's being manipulated by the primitive ego. A child is at the wheel, and the future of humanity is in danger. This incongruity must be remedied. People must come to see the truth about their fears and beliefs, that they are misguided. Who is guiding the fears and beliefs? Who is misguiding them? A very primitive aspect of the human being, the ego. While human nature is complex, in that it's much more than the ego is not complex, but quite simple. It is driven by fear, and it uses fear to motivate and move you about in your life. It does this through the voice in your head. Yes, the voice in your head belongs to the ego and nothing else. It's not the voice of reason. Your reason doesn't have a voice. It's just there, and you give it a voice. Who is this you that can give reason a voice or give the ego a voice? Indeed, you are a creature, you could say, with multiple personalities. Joking aside, the ego is an aspect of your humanness, but there is much more here than that, as just pointed out. You are what is able to see that you have an ego, and you are what is able to choose to heed that voice in your head or not. You are rational, reasonable, loving, patient, and good. Yes, you know that you. This you is no mystery to you. In any moment, you can access the rational, reasonable, loving you if you want to. That last part is key, isn't it? If you want to. What is it that wants to be reasonable and good? Some people call it their better angel or their best self, but it's not a part of yourself or outside yourself. It is you. This is an important distinction. Many of you think of your best self as something you have to work at becoming, and I understand that. I understand how powerfully easy it is to identify with the ego and its negativity and fear. I know what it's like to be human, to be frightened, to be angry, to be ashamed. But what most of you think of as yourself is only an aspect of yourself, when what you really are is the goodness you also know yourself to be, the goodness you strive to be. It's interesting, isn't it, that people do strive to be good. that your religions ask you to be good. The direction within the human is toward goodness, while obviously there's also a pull toward your lower nature, toward the fear and selfishness of the ego. This is the pull to a lower stage in your evolution. Today you are called to something higher, to your goodness. You must strive now to stay true to this within yourself, and to see this in yourself and do what you can to bring this goodness out in others. Today this is necessary for your survival. This is not just a nice suggestion to make you all happier. It is a plea for your very survival. Your species is on the brink of self-destruction. You must stop going in the direction of least resistance, the direction the ego is taking you in. You must stop fighting over your beliefs and come together as one people, one humanity. Your planet and your species cannot take much more destruction and conflict. You must wake up now to what is going on and change courses, shift your consciousness, and discontinue your destructive ways. How can I say this any more clearly? My words can only do so much. You are the ones who act in the world, who make the choices, who dream the dreams. I can only raise an alarm and help as best I can with words to help you shift your consciousness so that you learn to see things from a more enlightened perspective. Many of you are already with me on this. I realize that in many respects I'm preaching to the choir, as they say, and yet each of you has the ability to touch many, many souls. And if I can inspire you and speed up your own evolution, then I will have succeeded. Please recognize this as the sincere and concerned call that it is. And so the question is, how do you master your fears? Because once you do, you are released to love, to experience your life differently. Fear keeps you imprisoned in the egoic state of consciousness. Without fear, there would be clear seeing of the truth and action on behalf of the truth. And what is this truth? The truth I speak of is the truth about life, about reality, that it is good and trustworthy, supportive and kind. Spiritual forces underpin and guide your world. You are not alone. You are being guided toward love, goodness, peace, and yes, prosperity, for that is your reward. Many get to prosperity with their egos, which can be done. You can push and strive and elbow your way there. The ego will step on others, manipulate, lie, and do whatever it takes to get there. But there's no reward in that. And that's the lesson many are learning. Without love as an end and a means, there is no possibility for happiness or peace. But love will, nevertheless, win out. It will have its day within your hearts and within this world if you can manage to get through this challenging time. That is the lesson. Will fear or love win? Will you survive and prosper or not? This is not entirely up to you, of course, and yet survival and prosperity is impossible without your cooperation. Thank you for being here. I am with you always.